Hi, I'm Corey Dukai, product lead here at Legato Security. Today I'm going to walk you through Ensemble, our security operations platform. Ensemble aggregates key data from a number of different security tools and allows you to get better visibility into that data, quickly triage escalated alerts, and also access a variety of dashboards and reports. Let's get started. So when you first drop into Ensemble, you're presented with a user dashboard. So this is where practitioners or managers can jump into the data and understand what's happening in their environment, whether it's a weekly view or a longer view. You get exactly what's going on right now up top. But then as we scroll down, we can see, additionally over this time frame where tickets have been escalated and have been created. If we have outliers, we can drill in there into those specific tickets or things that look interesting. If there was a day with hundreds of tickets, we probably want to understand why. So similarly, we can go into the source of the incident. We can dig in and see where these things are coming from. If we've got one piece that's doing more than another, we may want to take a look at that. Or if things change over time. And then we can also see a little bit more about priority here. What's urgent, high, normal, low. We have a lot of varying classes of alerts that we triage and look into for customers. And so if you're particularly worried about a huge uptick of info alerts, maybe we drill into that. Maybe that's some system out there that's giving you some very, very low confidence information that we either want to tune down or take a look at, or vice versa. A day that has a ton of urgent tickets, well, we should probably drill into that and understand why. So when we take a look at this data, probably the most important thing to us is let's take a look at the open tickets. We can drill in there and we can see a bunch of different filters that we have. We can see, all the tickets that we have open. But let's take a look at one that's high and that's open and that's new. So we have the Sentinel-1 ticket here that appears to be an active threat. So we can drill in and see all the different information about it. We can see when it was created, what's the priority, where it maps out to MITRE ATT&CK according to Sentinel-1, and then also, more importantly, what the analyst has already done, right? So we've investigated this. And then we need to do further investigation by our next level teams here to pursue some investigation around the Royal and Black Suit IOCs. That's what Sentinel-1's found. But as a customer, if I'm looking at this, I might think, well, okay, this is bad, but who owns this system, right? Is this, really low value? Is this one of my lab systems? Is this a VIP system? All I know is that it's host LS0079. So we can actually drill into that. So we could actually go into the alert if we wanted to. We could pivot in there from here directly into Sentinel-1 if we wanted to get really deep. But I'm interested in particularly, hey, what is this system? Why do I care about it? So if we drill in there, we can see this is, looks like it's owned by CDukai, by me. And we know that it's been seen by CrowdStrike, it's been seen by Tenable. This is a real system, right? So some of this stuff I've obfuscated just for security, but we can tell, what IPs has it had, a little bit about the MAC address, if that's important to you. But we can also tell, what's the OS and when did we see it last. So this kind of gives us more insight into what's actually going on with these systems, right? There's a whole kind of another level of this information as well. We can also see all kinds of general asset information. If we don't want to look at, a ticket perspective, we can go in and look at an asset perspective. We can see, what are the active systems? How many users do we have? What types of systems do we have? So this really helps us understand what's new, what's old, what's normal in our system from an asset point of view. So there are a lot of different ways to kind of break this information down. We can filter on it in a bunch of different ways, but ultimately this allows our customers, or allows you, our customer, to see what's happening in our SOC, to understand what we're doing on your behalf. Additionally, here we can go into a little bit more information. We also have some kind of general information from the security tools we're monitoring. So for example, from the SIM, we can see some very basic stuff, a little bit about the cases that it's rolling up, a little bit more about the alerts that it's creating over time. This is interesting, but this allows you to pivot directly into the SIM tool to see that information as well. So we do want to give you a general set of information, as a manager or even as a practitioner of how things are going, and kind of the same thing with endpoint as well. We can see, what's the crowd strike score. We can see what detections have happened. And then more importantly, we also understand, by host, by system type, what does my environment look like? And again, this gives you a sense of what's happening so you can relate that back to the tickets. If you're getting a lot of tickets from, CrowdStrike, maybe it's worthwhile to come in and say like, how many, CrowdStrike agents do I have? Does this map out to the things that I'm seeing in my asset intelligence or the environment that I know I have just based on my business knowledge, right? So this allows us to understand that a little better. And if these counts are way off, this gives us a way to dig in, right? So we could pivot into CrowdStrike to see all those things. We could take an export of the systems there. We could go back into asset intelligence and drill into the details here to understand what systems have I seen over the last 30 days? Are they adequately protected? From there, we can also drill into things like our vulnerability management system. So this gives us a view into what we're seeing from something like Tenable or Qualys. This just gives you a quick view into it. Again, you can always pivot directly into the end tools, but this kind of shows you what we're seeing from those systems as we do scans throughout your organization. We can drill into a specific one and we can see, in this case, this is a roll up of, 5x to 5.2. It knows that that's not applied to this Mac, to this system. And we can see, all the potential effects that might have. Again, we link that back to the host. So we can say, look, whose host is this? Do we have to update this, in 10 minutes, or do we maybe have 10 hours, or do we have 10 days? Since it's me, you got plenty of time. One additional thing we do here, if you want to start seeing where your alerts are hitting, we map everything out directly to our MITRE heat map. So you can see the results of that, and we can see where the alerts are actually happening. In this case, the modify registry one, this is actually one that we could look at as well. This is a CrowdStrike alert that happened, and this is actually modifying the registry. It's a defense evasion. We can see the mapping here from the MITRE attack technique and tactic. And again, we want to make sure that these alerts are mapped out and linked in many different ways, right? So you can understand the full context of the alerts. So when you do go into an alert, when we do have an urgent alert or an escalated alert, you have sort of the full understanding of it. What is the impact? What systems are involved? What should I do about it? Where does it live? And what are my next steps? So in this case, this was a duplicate ticket from a lab system. Don't worry about it. So we want to make sure there's clear understanding of each of these alerts that we ask you to take a look at. We're also doing a lot of things on behalf of our customer. And so we want to make sure that everything we're doing is documented, right? So we put our comments in, we make sure that we acknowledge things. We want to make sure there's a clear sort of chain of events that if something comes back, there are cases where, a week from now, maybe another alert pops off that leads us back to this. Well, at the time, it didn't seem important, but maybe it's the, part of a trail of a larger set of issues. So we always make sure we're making comments and that, we're adding all the detail we can. There are other things that we do. So for example, outside of the ticket world, we also, have a documents area. So we're, in certain cases, we're reviewing firewalls. We're doing professional services work with you sometimes. For example, doing tabletop exercises or something. We'll share those documents here. So everything that we do on behalf of the customer or with the customer, we capture within Ensemble. We'll put threat hunting reports if, for example, if, heaven forbid, a customer really does have a incident, a breach or something like that. We'll make sure that we work with the customer, with their PR, with their legal team, and we'll make sure we document everything and that we do an after action report, right? Maybe sometimes we've also come in the middle of those, right? So there are certain, things that we'll document and make sure that those are shared with the customer. Those kind of things are always shared either within the documents. We also have reports that are available as well. We have, you can get to the customer delivery reports, and get to that information as well. So all the information that the customer service management team is aggregating, all that data is available for you. So one of the things we get asked all the time is how do we tune rules? Or if a customer is very interested in a certain set of IOCs or they're looking out for a specific threat. A lot of customers have multiple sort of threat feeds, whether they're formal or informal. They may have, connections in other organizations, things like that. So when customers want to interact with us, they have multiple ways of doing that, right? Like they can always reach out to our CSM, they can reach out to the SOC, they can also submit tickets here. So one of the common things is we can go into the type of ticket and we can say, for example, we want a detection creation, we want a tuning request. And so this is an easy way for our customers to come in and build out those requests. They can come in and say, hey, I'm specifically worried about this specific threat. For example, an IOC around the one we saw earlier, like the blackjack piece. And that will go directly to our engineering team. We'll create a ticket that you'll see in here, and the engineering team will respond to it. They'll say, sure, we're going to put together, a white or a blacklist, and we're going to put the IOCs, for that specific threat on there, or we'll go ahead and put a rule into the SIM or perhaps endpoint or whatever tool they're managing. Another request we get from our customers, and this actually came directly from them, is, help me understand what you're doing in aggregate. So, one of our big plans in the future is to build more executive level reporting, but we do put a lot of thought into, the SOC data down below. So this is over the last year, how much work we've done on your behalf. So there's some basic information there that we can say, hey, we've done 347 tickets for you total. We've had, many analysts look at your tickets, and right now we haven't escalated any, which is kind of good. Additionally, in our reports, we go into more metrics here, and so we can go into events by disposition, things like that. So higher level of reporting than what we might give to somebody that was in the trenches day to day. So we can say, hey, what type of, are these expected behaviors? Are they informational? Is there anything here that's a true positive, right, that we had to escalate? These are the types of things that a lot of times higher level managers, directors, execs are interested in. How are we creating versus resolving tickets, right? There'll always be a little bit of a difference, but we can give, you a good sense of how far along are we, right? Like, let's make sure we're meeting SLAs. Let's make sure we're not, falling behind. So one of the interesting things about Ensemble is that we work really closely with all of our customers. We love getting feedback. We love to try to take in ideas from our customers and implement them quickly, right, to help solve problems. One of the silly ones when Ensemble was first launched, we had this little widget up here just showed, I think it showed weekly ticket information. So it was like, how many tickets have you created over the week? And, what was the MTTR for those tickets? And one of the first pieces of feedback we received was, well, Corey, I don't, that's great. I know how many tickets I created per week, but there's a big difference in my mind between a urgent ticket and a normal ticket, right? Like a normal ticket, I expect to take a while, right? Like if I asked you to go tune my, go help me, deploy more endpoints, right? That's not something that happens in minutes. That's something that happens in hours or days. And so that was one of the first things we changed was, oh my gosh, we need to break those out. We need to make sure that we tell customers, how many urgent tickets have you had over the week? How long has it taken us to deal with those versus, those normal tickets that are more like, hey, so-and-so left the company. Please make sure, put a rule in to see if you see this person trying to log in on some system, right? Like that, should happen quickly, like within hours, but that's not something that needs to happen within minutes. And, over time, obviously we want to build out a lot more analysis, show this data that, all the stuff that we're doing on your behalf, make sure that we have good graphs for all different levels of the organization, whether it's a CISO or, L1 analyst, right? We should have good information to be able to show your organization what we're doing in those systems. So thank you for reviewing Ensemble with me today. There's a lot more Ensemble can do to help you with your cybersecurity journey, to give you more visibility, help you triage alerts more effectively, give you the insights you need to be successful. This is just the tip of the iceberg. If you want more information or have questions, please reach out via our website. Thanks a lot.